We spent every Sunday in church. We walked, about 20 blocks down to Monumental Baptist Church. No, that was White Rock. We were first members of White Rock. And then we went to Monumental. And we would walk blocks to church and spend, like others, all day in church. My mother cooked the meals at the church. She cooked chicken. She made rolls that would rise, great big tall rolls. And then on Sunday morning, before we went to church, we would take those rolls down and sell them to our neighbors.
So what was the inspiration of the church?
Well, since I knew I was an artist from very early on, everything around me became subject. And if you wanted movement, you watched the pastor, you watched the music, you listened to the music, you watched the parishioners. The Baptist people, of course, were very demonstrative, and they would wave their handkerchiefs. I mean, the pastor's wife would wave her handkerchief, and that meant you're supposed to get happy and shout. So with the music, we also not only heard the gospel music that made the people move, but we also heard the great oratorios. We heard Handel, we heard all of that. We heard Mendelssohn and Bach and Brahms and Beethoven. So the church was a center of cultural development for us. And of course, the movement and the color and the light, everything was inspirational. More recently, I painted revival. I was there for revival. I don't go to revival services in most cases. I go to church in San Francisco, so traveling across the bridge is hard for at night. I don't like to do this at night. But I did go this one time, and we had a visiting pastor. I am United Methodist. It's kind of conservative, but we had this visiting pastor, and he came in his limousine with his entourage. His entourage came before he did, and they stood on each side of the door. They were all dressed in black, beautiful people, just young and strong. And then when he came, he was due to go on at 7. He came at 3 minutes to 7, and they ushered him in, and they were his singers also. They were his guards and his singers, and such singing and such preaching, it was just really something. And my conservative congregation got kind of carried away, and they started to emote and to wave arms and shout and say amen. So it was just a special time for me in that church. So I went home and I drew it that night. And that's the one that was at Pro Arts, and that one my pastor purchased because I put him in it and the bishop and all of those things. So that was a special time. But I suppose the most special time for me was baptism. I was 11, and again, I had heard we had a soprano who sang Come Ye Disconsolate. She sang this big song, and I went up and joined church, and my sister, who is 9, did everything I did, so she went up and joined church. And then we were baptized in our white robes, and of course they wrapped us in a towel because we had nothing on except that robe, and they wrapped us in a towel. So I felt like I was floating. I felt like I was beyond, there would never be a time when anything could harm me because I had been baptized in the church. So that's very, very positive with me. It stays with me, and I really believe I am protected by that. So I spend a lot of my youth in church, and I spend every Sunday as an adult in church. And I find it to be extremely inspirational in the work I do. Although it's not completely, it doesn't overwhelm my work. The one I drew now today is about my being, I guess it's the pastor, the Christ, things that were said that I remember. We had to memorize whole books of the Bible. It looked like when we were children in Bible school. But I remember that how big the pastor looked and how Christ on the cross was always there in front. Of course, my Christ is black. All the Christs were white when I was a child, but it didn't matter. It still was important to me. And the other picture, of course, is about all of the things I've experienced. I've been a dancer because I also love to dance. So I do lots and lots of pictures of people dancing and singing and all of that. I sing with a choir, I sing with a performing group, and I paint. So it's all of the arts kind of stirred up. Just as a result of this workshop, I realized when you asked for pictures, how many of my pictures were about church, and how often I'm inspired to paint those around me. My friends are just about all from the church. They're either from the Art of Living Black, the church, or the group I sing with. So I have all of these people who surround me and make me feel good about life, all about living life.